if you feel like your business is stagnant
Mm,
or not moving like you would want it to, then focus on talking to new people and do that, and just set aside if you set aside an entire afternoon and just talk to new people for the
mm,
whole afternoon, then you'll fill up your next week's schedule. And it doesn't even have to be people in your industry. Like if you sell shoes, like talk to the
mm,
guy that sells carpets and see how
mm.
he does it. Talking to new people, I think, has been one of the biggest drivers for our business. We are always looking for new people to connect with via LinkedIn, Instagram, friends and
Mm.
family, like whatever. But new people that haven't heard about your value proposition yet, um, I would spend time talking to those people if you feel like things aren't moving like you want them to.
Hey everyone, this is Devin Miller here with another episode of the Inventive Journey. I'm your host, Devin Miller, the serial entrepreneur that has built several startups into 7 and 8 figure businesses, as well as the CEO and founder of Miller IP Law, where we help startups and small businesses with their patents and trademarks. And today we have another great guest on the episode or on the podcast, Ammon Collins. And Ammon, going all the way back to his journey, started out a window washing company while in college in order to pay for it. And then after that, got a summer sales job doing alarms and solar system. Got into roofing sales for a bit, and he'll talk into it a little more. He had a business investment that sunk a whole bunch of money in, and it didn't work out. And then he got into more of the software sales that started out with some dentists and doing some services for them, and has evolved that into the business that it is today. That kind of focuses a lot on lawyers, so a man after my own heart, as well as salons. So, with that much as an introduction, welcome onto the podcast, Ammon.
Thank you, Devin. I appreciate you having me.
So I gave the 30-second quick introduction to you, which never does your journey justice. And so tell us a little bit more about how your journey got started and how you got to where you're at today.
Yeah, absolutely. So, like you mentioned, I started a window washing company in school. I just realized that there was no way my $7.25 hour job would pay for school. So I started that, and then the year after that, I actually did get into summer sales. I did that for about 5 years, but I really towards the end of it was just really unhappy, feeling really unfulfilled, and so I
Mm.
decided to that I wanted to pivot into something else, and that's when I got into software sales, which was I think a much better fit. I preferred selling to B2B after I got into that, and so that's kind of how I landed here.
So diving into your journey, so now winding back, so window washing. So give me an idea. So you're in college and you're saying, okay, I can go get in a minimum wage job, which shocker, you can't go to college on minimum wage, but
Yeah,
some people may not
right.
realize that. But so how did you land on window washing? Was it just an easy job? You had experience. You just said, oh, this sounds easy enough. I can go wash windows. Or how did you land on window washing to do during college?
Yeah, so I'm the oldest of 7 kids, and yeah, minimum wage. Like my parents weren't going to be able to help me with school, so
Hmm.
it just wasn't going to cut it. And I remember, so my mom, like historically, never pays for anything. Like I'm cheap, but she's next level. So I remember when I was a kid that she actually paid one time to get her windows washed. And that was like,
Hmm.
in my head, I was like, you paid how much to get your windows washed, And like, so that's just kind of stuck in my head. I think I was like 15 or 16 when the guy came to wash our windows. And so I just watched some videos on YouTube. And then literally all I did is I watched videos on YouTube. Then I went to Home Depot and bought the stuff to do it. And then I just started knocking doors and just lined up some jobs. And the people that I lined up had no idea that I was just starting. So I didn't see that that was a relevant fact, and I just went for it. But yeah,
Hmm.
I actually started out my business on a bike. I would carry like my bucket in one hand and drive my bike with the other hand, and then I saved up enough for a car eventually. So that was a big point in the business, transportation wise.
So you did. So now I can just imagine. I can almost see. Hey, I've got all my window washing gear, and I'm just going to show up to a bike, and that's got to be impressive. They're going to say, "Oh yeah, he's got to be with the big company." But no, just think that I can just imagine in my mind's eye, riding your bike with all the window washing gear and trying to juggle it and not fall over, not get run over. So now you graduate from college. Was the summer sales after you graduated and doing the alarms or solar, or was that still during college?
So I did it for 2 years during college, and
Hmm.
I don't know, 2 or 3 years during college, and then a couple years after. Um, and summer sales taught me a lot of really great skills, but it just it just turned into something that I really didn't enjoy.
Hmm. And so so you reached that, and so you say you did it. Was it a year or two after college? Is that what you said?
With summer sales,
Yeah.
no. So I did the window washing business for 1 year, and then the
Mm,
next year I went out and did summer sales, and I made a lot of money. I made good
mm,
money with window washing, but I made way more with summer sales.
mm,
So I did summer sales for the next after that first year. I did it for 4 more years,
mm,
so 5 years total. And I graduated college in like 2016.
mm.
So I think I did like 2 years of summer sales after that.
All right. So you're making good money at, summer sales more than you made at the window washing. So then how did what was it just you finally reached a point you're saying, hey, I can make good money, but it's not fulfilling or it's not enjoyable anymore. I'd rather go do something else. Is that kind of the tipping point for you to kind of go on to the next thing?
Yeah, like I know it's cliche and people say, like money doesn't buy happiness and stuff
Mm,
like that, but it like I was making more money with that than any of my peers were making out of college, still making out of college. Like summer sales, if you do it right, you can make a lot of money. So I just was just super, super unhappy. Just like I hated knocking doors by the end of it. I felt like because you have to like move every summer you basically uproot your whole life and just move to a new place. And so I was sick of moving around and not being able to have like a
mm.
girlfriend because long distance never worked. And so I was
You
just
mean the movies lied to me that long distance relationships aren't or magical?
oh, I have zero faith in yeah, more power to everybody that makes that work.
So then no, I don't think there's a glitch. I would say I always look at it this way: if you don't have any money, money can't buy you happiness. You have to have almost a minimum amount of money, right? If you're always living hand to mouth, if you can't pay the bills, you do need money in order to have money. But once you hit kind of everybody that's different, but once you hit that minimum threshold, then it has a much more diminishing return, right? Now the extra money doesn't really give you a whole lot more happiness because you've got life covered, so to speak, and now you're going to look for that fulfillment. Hey, if I'm going to be doing this for a lot of hours, a lot of my life, let's do something that's enjoyable. So when you did that, now what was you had that realization. Where did you jump to from summer sales? Where'd you go after that?
So I that's when I got into software sales. So
Hmm.
I got done with the summer, and then in September I made up my mind. I said I'm going to take a massive pay cut. I went from making over 6 figures a year
Hmm.
easily to I think my salary starting with this software company was like 45,000 or something plus like commission. It came out to like 70,000 a year or something like that. So
Hmm.
um, just decided that if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it, and then the pay will figure itself out. So I started that job in September, and I know a lot of entrepreneurs start their businesses by working for an employer in a certain area and then kind of branching out from there, and that's the way it worked out for me. It was like a huge blessing to take that software job, even though it was a pretty big pay cut.
Hmm. So and I think that a lot of times you find that, but I also think a lot of times, not always, that you find that thing that you do enjoy, that you are passionate about, and even if you had to take the pay cut up front, either one, you're a lot happy, and a lot of times as you get happier, you find a way to make up the money, and or you make even more money because you're really into it and you really have an enjoyable time. So
Exactly.
you get into software sales, and now remind me because I know we talked a little bit about the before the podcast, and you mentioned somewhere along in that journey you had kind of your $50,000 investment mistake. Where did that play into things?
Yeah, that was during the time of summer sales. It was, I'd had I think it was my third or fourth year or something. I'd made a bunch of money that year,
Hmm.
and so I had money to lose, but it was still a
Which
lot
is never a good position to be in.
no, it's ridiculous. So yeah, and I know that you ask about our worst business decision, so this is going to play into that. Like
We'll
this,
give the prelude so that people want to listen later on.
but
So
yeah, no, I just had a bunch of money after the summer, and I had a buddy that found an investment that we could go in on together, and so we did that, and it worked out terribly. So it's great.
all right. And now with that much as a prelude, we'll jump into that as the last question. You can give
Sure.
a bit more detail.
Awesome. Yeah.
So now we jump forward. You do get into software sales, and I think you started out selling software to dentists. Is that right?
Yeah, it was a basically like a communication software for dentists to communicate with their clients, and sort of like a CRM and communication software wrapped up in one.
Okay. So and then so you did that, and now how did that transition to doing your own thing or doing your own startup? So you're selling. I assume you're selling the software that's for somebody else. You're still in sales. Now, how did you get into starting your own business, which is where you're at today? How did that transition go?
Yeah, so I still had some money left over from summer sales.
You
Um,
didn't lose all of it.
didn't lose all of it, no, luckily. So still had some money left over, and I basically part of the product that I sold was this little tiny feature called
Mm,
missed call texting, and I thought it was a super cool feature and that it could apply to way more businesses than just dentists. But our
mm,
price point at the company that I was at was like $400 or $500 a month.
mm.
Like it was like 400 on the low end, like 500 normal, and I was just sitting there like, man, so many businesses could use this, but the price is just way too high for like smaller companies like salons or like like the one man shops that would
Mm,
really need it. The people that
mm.
really need it are the people that miss calls, right? But
Yeah. The people that can't afford to have a receptionist sit
yeah,
at the front office or front desk all day long taking calls, and if they don't have a call, they just sit there and play on their phone.
exactly.
Businesses that can't afford that are the one that need it the most.
So I looked at that problem and I said, this is a good fit. Let's figure out a way to make it cheaper. I figured out a way pretty quickly to do that, and then I I quit or I I started talking to developers while I was still with the employer. And
Mm,
then once it started getting more serious, then I quit that job, and just focused on, managing the project and stuff like that. And we had a lot of, we had like 3 false starts with this company. It was a nightmare getting development off the ground. My partner and I, his name is Carter Smith. He's been awesome to work with. He and I really didn't want to spend a lot of money on development because we weren't 100% sure if it was going to work out or not. So we tried to just keep it really cheap, and we went through sites like Upwork. We had a developer in Pakistan that didn't work out, and we wasted about 3 or 4 months with him. Then the same thing
mm,
happened with the developer in Nepal, and then another one in Pakistan. And then finally, that third one led us to our fourth and current developer. Um, so if we would have found the right developer to begin with, we would have been about a year ahead of schedule,
mm.
more or less, maybe like 8 months. But we did waste a considerable amount of time, not necessarily money, but a lot of time with these developers that didn't work out.
Mm.
It is true that you get what you pay for, but you can find good developers for cheap. You have to hunt for them.
No, but I even say in the US, I've had experience with great developers, even in the US, whether you go foreign or not. Some
Yeah.
of them are spot on and every bit the money they're worth, and others, they're just there and they drag things out and they're not really that
Oh,
helpful. And they're just,
yeah.
it always seems like they'll tell you that it's going to be done this week, and then you have another month before something gets done. But the money still is, they're still charging you the money, even though there's
Yeah.
not. So I certainly understand.
Yeah.
So,
Well, it was funny. I actually got a call from, like, so we were working with this one guy, and then he
mm,
was outsourcing the development to somebody else, which was the developer we have now. And he called me and he's like, hey, the reason stuff isn't getting done is because I haven't been paid for 2 months. And I was like, let's fix that. So we just cut out the
mm,
other guy and just started using him.
well. Sounds like after a few different false starts and figuring things out, so you get the software, up and going, and this is still why you're doing this as a side hustle, right? Where you're still doing the software sales, or are you doing this
Um,
now full time?
no, I moved away from the software sales company because I thought it was too close of a product. I
Mm,
didn't want to get in trouble with non-competes and stuff. So I
okay.
moved away from there. And then I actually went back into some sales jobs. But yeah, I just kind of I just kind of did some like of my
Mm.
summer sales experience, but on a part-time basis.
Okay, so you basically kind of have the jobs that give or have enough money to pay the bills and to get or keep things going as you're doing this development. You
Yeah.
finally get the software all done, and you do it and you jump in full time. Now, how did it go once you finally jumped in? Had the software programmed or at least an initial version, started to go out and sell it. How was that? Was it a quick and easy to find customers? Did it take a while? Was it accepting? Did you have to go back and re-rev it again, or how did that go for you?
Yeah, so we had an awesome response. I just to go out and sell it. Like we didn't have an app developed yet. Everything was just web based.
Hmm.
Didn't have like a mobile app or anything. So I actually went out to these businesses. I just went out to salons and I just knocked on their doors and I said, hey, I'd love to talk to you about this software that we've developed. I signed up like 10 customers in like 2 weeks for that, which was huge for us. Like,
Hmm.
um, it was awesome and we were stoked on it. So it really was not hard to find customers that were interested in using it. The challenge, like a month after we started selling in person, then COVID hit and we didn't have things up and running to do anything on the phone. Like no, our system was not clean enough to support phone sales at the time.
Hmm.
So we got a group of customers, which was really like a huge blessing. We got those customers, got a bunch of feedback from them during COVID, and then during COVID, we worked on revamping everything, getting the mobile app, doing a bunch of like design, and then in like early or like middle of June is when we relaunched kind of, but then we could do it on the phones, and so
Hmm.
it wasn't an issue with COVID as much.
No, and I can, that would always be tough on the sales side if you're used to doing the face to face, in person, going to the business's sales, and now you're saying, now we got to stop,
Yeah,
pivot, and figure out how we sell this thing when we're not doing face to face. And so I'm sure that caused a bit of an adjustment in the business plan.
yeah, but yeah, the acceptance was awesome, and it wasn't. We actually started out with auto shops and salons at first, and I mean, the first day I went out, I went to one of the salons like literally like half a mile from my house, and the lady was like, "Yeah, I'll try it." So it wasn't it wasn't
Hey,
hard enough. That
and that's always exciting. The first few sales on any product or any business you get up and going, whether or not they're $1 million or they're $5, is just say, hey, somebody will actually, I built something that somebody actually will pay for, and then you usually thought is, I hope it works, that kind of a thing. So now you do that. So you guys are up and running as of today. You've had to adjust a bit with COVID. Now, where do you see the next 6 to 12 months going for you guys? How's that going to play out?
So right now our focus is finding sustainable sales channels,
Hmm.
and we're getting to the point where we have some sales channels that are producing positive ROI, and it's actually it's looking good with these sales channels. But um, I mean, we'd like to once we find something that works, then we'd probably go out and get some money and just be able to say, okay, here's the numbers on acquisition costs and stuff like that for these different
Hmm.
channels, and go ahead and start ramping it up. Um, but yeah, I mean, I guess one of the big focuses with us too is finding different like CRMs to partner with and
Hmm.
potentially acquire our
Hmm.
product, like license it or something like that, or even an acquisition. We're talking with a CRM for legal companies right now that we're hoping that goes through. So yeah, I think our goal in the next 6 to 8 months is we have a certain target for revenue that I think we can hit, and then if we can prove out these sales channels, then we'll probably go ahead and raise some money.
That's cool. All right. Well, good luck on the next 6 to 12 months as you guys both do go through the fundraising, make the pivots, and everything, and all the above. So
Thank you.
now we are going to jump to the part of the podcast where I'll ask the question that we gave the prelude on, which is so in your journey when we hit on it already a bit, but what was the worst business decision you ever made, and what did you learn from it?
Yeah, absolutely. So, like I said, uh, gosh, I wish I would have just invested in something safe like real estate or something. But I've always been super okay with risk. So um, my buddy, my buddy Carter Smith, he's my business partner. We were looking into different businesses, and we found this business that was looking for investment up in Seattle.
Mm,
And so we were stoked on it. We flew up there, and we met with the owner, and we had just like stars in our eyes. And we had basically no prior experience in that industry, like none whatsoever.
mm,
And we made a uh, I don't know, $60,000, $70,000 decision um, off of a few Google searches and talking to this guy.
mm,
Um, so that turned out pretty bad. There were a few reasons why it didn't work out. I think one of the main reasons was that our mentality was, okay, we're going to put this money into it, and if this guy says that he's going to do what he says he will, then we're going to get X amount out. But it was everything depended on this manager up in Seattle doing his job, and
mm.
and it was just like that was too much to depend on, and everything just kind of went south about 12 months later, and so I lost it, and life moves on. But I mean, I did get like I mentioned, Carter Smith is my business partner. One of the biggest things that I got out of that was him as a partner, and
Mm.
knowing that we could lose a bunch of money together and still come out as friends and not hate each other. So that was a big part of that.
No, that's a good lesson to learn of it. When it's easy to have partners in a business when things are going well, meaning everybody's making money, everybody's happy. But what really reveals who's a good partner is when it's not going well, and it could be everything from losing everything or just sales and downturn to having to slow down in sales, having to lay off or furlough, or even going through COVID and lockdowns and everything else. I think it reveals a lot more of the type of partners you have in there. And I think the other thing I get out of that is if you're nobody's going to care about your business like you care about your business. And so if you're putting your business in the hands of somebody else, it's just never, I don't think it'll ever work out nearly as well, because they're just not, if they're not fully invested, if it's not their business, they're just not going to care as much. And so I think that's a good lesson to learn is, hey, when we invest, it's got to be our business. We have to know what we're doing, and we have to be the ones to drive it. So I think that's a great lesson to learn. So now I jump to the second question. You're talking to someone that's just getting into a startup or a small business. What would be the one piece of advice you'd give them?
So I've listened to a few of your episodes, and I agree with. I don't know that this would be like my number one advice, but one thing that I didn't hear that would be like super up there for me is if you feel like your business is stagnant
Mm,
or not moving like you would want it to, then focus on talking to new people and do that, and just set aside if you set aside an entire afternoon and just talk to new people for the
mm,
whole afternoon, then you'll fill up your next week's schedule. And it doesn't even have to be people in your industry. Like if you sell shoes, like talk to the
mm,
guy that sells carpets and see how
mm,
he does it. Talking to new people, I think, has been one of the biggest drivers for our business. We are always looking for new people to connect with via LinkedIn, Instagram, friends and
mm.
family, like whatever. But new people that haven't heard about your value proposition yet, um, I would spend time talking to those people if you feel like things aren't moving like you want them to.
No, I love that. And I do it slightly different, but in a similar way, because, so I have some people on my marketing team that, that do implement different things. And I'm usually the guy that comes up with a crazy idea and tells them, now go figure out how to implement it. But, they always joke that, I'll always go, I like to listen to podcasts. So I do my own podcast, but I'm also an avid listener. And they'll always joke that, yeah, Devin goes for a run. And that's usually when I listen to him, is in the morning when I go for a jog. And they'll say, what happens is Devin will go listen to a podcast. He'll come to the office and he'll have a new idea. And he tells us how. So all of Devin's ideas come from the podcast. I'm like, well, not all of them, but to your point, it's a different, and the thing I do with podcasts is I don't just listen to, there are some law firm marketing podcasts I listen to and business ones, but I also listen to ones that are in real estate. I listen to ones that aren't just in the US or Australia and Europe. And it's really, I think, kind of along your point is, talking with new people, going going outside your industry, listening and learning with new things is a way that gives you the ability to import what works well for other people and in other businesses and other locations much better than if you just keep in your kind of silo and only talk to, in your example, shoe sales. If all you do is talk to other people that are selling shoes and they've sold the same way for 20 years, sold those shoes, you're not going to get your inspiration from them. So I think that I love that thought and feedback. Well, as we reach the end of the podcast, if people want to reach out to you, they want to be a customer, they want to be an investor, they want to be your next best friend, they want to work for you, an employee, they want to be your partner, any or all of the above, what's the best way to connect up with you?
The best way is probably to go to our website. It's and there's a form to fill out to contact us. Our website is www.getinca. That's getinca.com. And then you can also look me up on LinkedIn. I'm on there all the time for our different marketing stuff, but just Ammon Collins, and I'll pop up.
All right. Well, I definitely encourage everybody to reach out to you and either on LinkedIn or on your website directly. It sounds like an awesome product and certainly something that a lot of startups and small businesses could use. So with that, thank you for coming on the podcast. It's been a pleasure. Now, for all of you that are listeners, if you have your own journey to tell and you'd like to come on and tell your journey, feel free to go to inventivejourneyguest.com, apply to be on the show. If you're a listener, make sure to click subscribe so you get a notification as all the new episodes come out. And last but not least, if you ever need help with patents and trademarks, feel free to reach out to us at Miller IP Law. We are always here to help. Thank you again, Ammon. It's been a pleasure, and wish the next leg of your journey even better than the last.
Thank you, sir. You too.
Hey, if you enjoyed this episode of The Inventive Journey, make sure to go and check out Startups Magazine. They're an awesome magazine and podcast centered over in the UK. And if the magazine is a digital and print magazine where they focus on tech startups and entrepreneurs, and they also have a focus on female founders and women in tech. So if you want to check out their magazine, either digital or print, it's Startups Magazine, startups with an S, magazine.co.uk. And you can also look up their podcast, which is called The Serial Entrepreneur. So go check them out. They're awesome, and definitely if you like this episode, you'll like them.